everyone was a bit shocked, you know. It was a risky strategy.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it. Like, I'd sold a couple of programs. I expected to be on a beach in Bali, pina colada in one hand, coaching kids, laptop lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it didn't happen. And again, I've the last 3 years have been unbelievably challenging at points.
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Inspired By, with me, your host, Manjeet Nijjar. I have another inspiring guest this week. Wouldn't be anything but inspiring with a title like Inspired By, would it? So this week, I have a young man by the name of Sam Moinet. Oh, if you haven't heard of him, go to his Instagram handle, Student Breakthrough. You won't regret it. Sam, I met, I think it was a year ago, maybe two, can't remember exactly. Yeah. So he's one of the people I've actually met face to face. Some people I haven't yet met face to face. But Sam, I met at Call Mahay's Ignite Your Inner Potential event, and you might remember Call from a previous episode. Well, Sam was one of the speakers. So Sam's gone through the public speaking course that Call offers, and that was his first speaking gig, was where I first met him. And he had so much energy, so confident, first on the stage and then walking amongst like 300 to 400 people. It must have been really scary at the same time as well. So I'm going to bring him on board now. Hi, Sam. How are you?
Hi, Manjeet. Great to be here. Thank you for that lovely intro. It's a pleasure to chat to you today. Thank you so much.
Bless you. Thank you again for coming on board. I really appreciate it. So I said like your student breakthrough, but if we can park that just for a moment, just so that we get a little bit of background on you. Who are you? You know, what's your family background? Which part of the country are you from?
Yeah, sure. So, my name's Sam Moinet. I'm the founder of Student Breakthrough. I'm a speaker, a teacher, and a student coach. I'm 30 years old. I'm from Cambridge, here in the UK. So, my story really starts all the way back when I was a child. Is it okay if I share that?
Go for it. Absolutely, yeah. Go for it.
My story starts all the way back when I was about 10 years old. And when I was at school, I wasn't the most confident student. I got picked on a little bit. I never found my feet. But I looked up to one person in my life. And that person was my dad, my old man. Mm-hmm. And my dad's such an inspiration. He was a Royal Marine. He fought in the Falklands War in the 1980s. And for me, as the underconfident student, I really, how can I gain my confidence? I'm going to go and be a soldier. So, Manjeet, that was my dream when I was 10, and I achieved my dream when I was 21. I get a letter through the post, and the Royal Anglian Regiment opened the letter. It says, Sam, we'd love to sponsor you through Sandhurst. And I run up to my dad at 21 years old, right? Like running up to him saying, Dad, check this out. Like, they want me in the army. And I really felt accepted, and he was proud of me and all this great stuff. But 2 weeks later, I got another letter through the post. This one, same kind of letter, same style. I knelt down, picked it up, and I read the first line.
Yeah.
And my heart stops. And it says, Sam, unfortunately, you've been diagnosed with Crohn's disease.
No.
So you can't join the British Army and fulfill your dream. And that was a massive turning point in my life. I got my coffee cup that day, smashed it against the wall, and I was broken. I properly cried for days after that. And that emotional turmoil didn't leave me for a good couple of years.
So that the emotions of being, I suppose, for want of a better word, rejected, kind of stayed with you.
Yeah, it's because I never dealt with it. So I didn't see it as a good thing. I felt like a victim.
Okay.
That's what I'd use. And I fell into education. My dream was over. What do I do? So I became a history teacher. And
I love history.
Everyone always says that.
I really enjoyed history at school.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's I think it's the best subject in the world. I still love it. Gutted I can't teach it really much anymore with what I'm doing, but I do love it. And when I first started teaching, I didn't really enjoy it. And it's because I felt like a victim. I hadn't engaged with my failure or setbacks. And this manifested into lots of anxiety, mental health challenges, insomnia. Sometimes I'd break down in front of my classes, crying in front of 30 kids sometimes, fighting back the tears. And when you're at the bottom of the mountain, sometimes only one way up. And on the 23rd of April, 2015, I met someone. Manjeet, you probably met someone who's changed your life, and this person really changed my life. And he was a coach. So I was like, I thought a coach was for rugby, football, and cricket, right? For sports. This guy was a coach for my mindset. Anyway, come on the call, and we chat on the phone, and I just sob uncontrollably for the whole time. But I learned so much in that session, and I learned that to express and not suppress was so important as a young man to talk.
I'm going to stop you just there 1 second.
Go for it.
I know you're in full flow, but that saying is one that you said at the event, and I came up to you about that. I don't know if you remember, but express but do not suppress. It was like, oh wow, it's huge light bulbs going off for me at that point. You know, it was amazing, and it does speak volumes, that one saying. So sorry to interrupt you, but I just had to get that in there quickly.
It's all good. No, it's great. I think I do remember that, and it's actually on all our t-shirts now that I give to students: express, don't suppress. It takes courage and honesty to be vulnerable, but when we're like that, we actually end up growing and changing and becoming the best version of ourselves. So express, don't suppress. I learned that the failure was a blessing in my life. Like, failure is a bit like pulling back the bowstring with a bow and arrow, and it shoots us into a different direction. Hence, you saw me speak, and hence we're on a call together, and I've set up Student Breakthrough. And so I got in the mindset that it was a good thing. And then the last thing I learned was that this kind of support needs to be in schools. And I'll fast forward a little bit. I went back to education, became a much better teacher, gave it my all, got some great results, always got rated like outstanding in my observations. I gave everything to it, and I got lots in return. But I saw so many students who were struggling. Once I had this new awareness, I was like, it's like so much anxiety, low motivation. So many kids aren't getting support. And one night before my head hit the pillow, which is when I always get my ideas, it's like, ding. Well, what if I could not just teach history, but coach students or give them life skills and help them in the way that I've been helped, so they don't push their problems away, they actually deal with them there and there. So became a coach, qualified coach, started working with students in my break times after schools, and got some fantastic results. You know, like mental health improved, relationships improved, academic performance improved. And I really felt like I was onto something. So in July 2018, I quit teaching. Okay.
That must have been a hard decision to make, because you said you went back into it and how much you absolutely loved it.
Oh, I loved it. But throughout my life, my parents were both entrepreneurs. My mum was a teacher, and they ran their businesses in education. They ran nursery schools. I never saw teaching as my forever thing. There was always part of me. I remember sitting in a park in Milton Keynes on a summer's day, just writing down in a journal, like, different ideas. How can I do a business in education? How can I do something with that? Because I would never have left education just to go and do something random. Like, it has to be with young people. And it has to be helping and serving young people. So it wasn't really a tough call. Like that last year, so September 2018, when I back to school for that year, I'd already made up my mind. I was leaving. Not that I told anyone. Everyone was a bit shocked, you know. It was a risky strategy. There's no two ways about it. Like, I'd sold a couple of programs. I expected to be on a beach in Bali, pina colada in one hand, coaching kids, laptop lifestyle. And it didn't happen. And again, I've the last 3 years have been unbelievably challenging at points. You know, so
and how so? How, you say they've been unbelievably challenging. So give me some key points where you had these challenges and how you turned them around.
Cool. Yeah. So the first 3 months of business, so I founded the business in January 2018, but I was still teaching. So September 2018, my brother, who was a teacher as well, went back to school, and then all of a sudden it was me on my own in the house. And I was like, wow, this is real now, right? I've got to do this. Basically ignored all my finances, didn't look at it, and got really down again. Didn't want to get out of bed, frozen with fear. My mentor was like, go and get a supply teaching job. I was like, my ego was like, no, I don't want to do it. Anyway, I went and got a supply teaching job, had the interview, never actually did the work. What happened was a school said, hey, can you volunteer and just help us out for a week? And I said, yes. And then that last Friday, the head teacher comes and says, look, we want you to work with some of our students, coach them. So for like January to July that year, I don't know the figures off by heart, but let's just say I was getting $1,000 consistently a month. So I knew I had some sort of financial stability. So I guess the lesson in that is just saying yes and working out later. Richard Branson, there's a great quote from him. It says, just say yes and work it out. And same thing, like when I had that financial stability, someone calls me and says, look, I love what you're doing. Lovely woman from Swansea called Jo. Can you train me? And again, could have said, no, I haven't got the skills. But I said, well, yeah, sure, I can train you. So since then, I've trained 30 people in coaching and trained people all across the UK. I think the biggest thing is, like, I doubt myself every day. And I get anxious every day. And I worry and I stress. And that's okay because I'm a human being. But I never doubt the end vision. I never doubt the end vision, which is to revolutionize emotional support for young people, right? Change education. And change like I say, the mental health support that students, or lack of, that they receive.
Why is that so important to you? Because I can see it is. I can see it in your features, in the way you talk. But why is it so important to you?
Because it caused me so much frustration and pain for years being in education and watching so many kids struggle and doing stuff that's just been done for the last, I'm going to be honest here, maybe the last century. We do stuff in education that's just the same for the sake of it. Right? There's no change. There's no real spark. The thing that annoys me, it could be done so much better. And I've been there. I've been in the system. I understand it. 5 years in there. There's so many things that we just keep doing that no one wants to change. And that's what's driving me. It's those students that don't have support. It's the students that have been through counselling at school, haven't had a result. They come to student breaks and they're like, this has really worked. They're the students that keep me moving forward. It's the frustration and pain of the environment.
I completely agree with you when it comes to our schools, because as far as I'm concerned, the whole curriculum needs to be ripped up and thrown away. We need to start from scratch, because what was, when it was set, like you said, maybe 1,000 odd years ago, it was relevant then. It's no longer relevant. We're in a different world, completely different. I know when I left school, right? What did I do?
Not that long ago.
A long time ago compared to you. When I left school, we had CSEs and O levels, right? So now you've got GCSEs, A levels, and God knows what else. So when I left school, we just left with a certificate. We had no skills whatsoever. We had home economics, it taught you how to make a casserole or something like that as a girl, because you weren't expected to do anything other than be a housewife. And things like that. I wasn't given any life skills at school. And I'm not saying it's all up to the school. There's a lot of onus on whoever your carer is, your parent, your grandparent, whoever it is helping to raise you as a child. But there is a lot of onus on the schools as well to give students the skills, how to manage money, how to pay bills, how to understand themselves, that they're going to come across challenges and so on. And yes, that's human to do it. And life is not going to be a fairy story, So I think what you're doing is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, the curriculum's interesting. It's just been like, different governments, interest groups, just bolt on different things. And it's like this hybrid of just mishmash stuff. I did a post on it about frontal adverbials, how a parent didn't know what a frontal adverbial was when their 8-year-old asked them, Mum, what's a frontal adverbial? Again, it's in the curriculum that 8-year-olds need to learn.
I don't even know what it is.
Oh no, neither did I until I looked into it. I can't even remember off the top of my head. So that's something I want to change. And I think I want to stand for something more than just student breakthrough. It's a vehicle to take me to the next point. But I want to be the person that's known for revolutionizing education, and especially the emotional support for students. It doesn't have to be doom and gloom. It's usually, if you have a problem in a school, you go and see some little old dear counsellor that's been at the school for 20 years in a pokey office. I want to bring some positivity and action orientated and empower kids, No,
and I think that is very admirable. I really do, but how are you going to make those inroads? So what have you done so far? I mean, if we can take a step backwards, in a sense, to student breakthrough, what is the program? What is student breakthrough about? I know you said it's about emotional intelligence, but what are you doing to empower teachers or whatever it is? What is student breakthrough?
Yeah, great question. Student breakthrough really uses revolutionary coaching methods, right, to inspire and create success and happiness and well-being in students. But how do we do that? We coach students one-on-one using our 3B program of Boost, Believe and Breakthrough. So that's just giving students one-on-one support. It's listening to them. It's asking great questions, helping them to have the insights themselves, building responsibility. And then we also run events for teachers, parents, and students. Like I'm big on building mental health and coaching cultures in schools and families. And then the last thing, I train people to be student coaches, which for me is like, I love doing that so much. So that's how we kind of had this change. Like, for instance, I trained Jo nearly 2 years ago now. And she was working with students in Swansea who were school refusing, weren't going to college, weren't getting an education. And then through her coaching, you know, they were going to get an education. They were changing things, taking action. Wow. And here's the thing, for themselves. We never tell students what to do. People, it's what annoys me with coaching. Anyone calls them a coach. People think coaching is telling, giving advice. Like, it's not that. It's all coming from the student. And that's what makes it such like an amazing process.
Yeah. It's same because I'm a coach as well from a different perspective, helping people move on in their careers and so on. Not specifically careers, but careers seems to be the main thing where I tend to go. And again, I don't give anybody an answer because I don't have the answers. They've got the answers themselves. It's asking the right questions, it's creating that environment where it's safe and they can open up. And so you can start digging and peeling back those layers and getting to kind of like the root of whatever it is that's bugging them. And sometimes they don't even know themselves. They haven't acknowledged something like with yourself, you know, when you got turned down by the army, and you just kind of bury it, and then it'll come back. It's going to come and bite you at some point. So it's getting them to open up and speak about those sort of things, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, totally. And like, just listening is such an undervalued skill with students. And usually they come out the first session, I'm like, how was it? And they're like, it's so good to be listened to.
Yeah.
And listen to understand, not to reply, you know, really listening with your heart, being a heart with ears. It's a cool process. And I love what we do.
Do you know what you just said? Listen to understand. That's something I talk about a lot in the training that I do, the training delivery for service management, plus in the coaching as well. That most of the time when we're having a conversation, we're actually switching off from what the other person is saying because we're too busy formulating a reply. We haven't actually fully understood what that person's really saying. So it's like, people stop. Let's just all take a breath and really focus on what somebody is saying to you in front of you.
Oh, for sure. That's what I always talk about in my events and talks as well, is that because it's so obvious, but it's so distant from people as well.
Yeah. So how have you adapted what you do given COVID, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously before you were in front of people.
Yeah, COVID happened and I had a few school contracts that were lined up and they got pushed back. Not cancelled, just pushed back. During that first lockdown, I did loads of stuff. I created an online course, filmed that, sold that to schools, created a podcast. And then business was fairly kind of just a bit slow, if I'm honest. And November, December time, things really started picking up and we've got loads of stuff booked now. So I've been doing loads of school talks online for kids. Obviously the coach training is all online, by the way. So that was never face-to-face.
Yeah.
And the business at the start, the sessions were all online. I took him back face-to-face mainly because I was working with some younger students who had specialist needs, like, you know, slightly autistic or ADHD, and they need me to be there one-on-one, like in person. But it's all basically gone online, and schools have, you know, been really accepting of that. So it's just another challenge or hurdle. But like December and January have been my best months in business.
Fantastic.
In COVID, near Christmas time, when no one's got, you know, it's like, these are just assumptions that we make. And all I've found out really, Manjeet, is just like, it's being persistent is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And like I say, you can doubt yourself every day, but you never doubt the ambition, and you're persistent and just keep going and going and going. And that's the thing that separates the great from the good.
You know, one of my coaches has said, and it sticks in my head, consistency and discipline is going to help you to reach your end vision. You know, you got to have the end vision sorted out, yes, but you got to have that consistency, persistence, and the discipline to do all of the work. Otherwise, things do tend to fall by the wayside.
100%. 100%.
Your dream's going to remain a dream, and that's it.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. So where are you going to take this? You know, what happens next? How do you make inroads within this huge system that we have, and that dusty old building on the Thames called Parliament? Because that's where you've got to get to shake that up a bit, haven't you?
Yeah, great question. I mean, weirdly, on my vision board for this year, which I made in January, start of January. So my Student Breakthrough logo, you can see is a fist with SB, right? So I want to change things.
Yeah.
A bit like communist propaganda, but not quite. Anyway, so I put that on my vision board, and then I connect with a guy I'm on his podcast called The Teacher's Point of View, named TJ. And we really connected about changing things in education. And then I spoke to a couple more people, and I was like, well, again, it's a baby step, but I'm going to make a Facebook group called the Education Revolution. So we're trying to pull people together. I don't really know, where it's going at the moment, but it's been a nice inroad into changing things. And there are people who want to do something different. Like, I've changed my message. I'm more confident with my message, and it's getting lots of traction on social about what I'd like to change in education, see different. But I've realized it has to come from the bottom up. Yeah. Like most revolutions, it can't come from it can't come from the top down.
No.
So yeah, I think my end point, like I say, Student Breakthrough is just the start. It's just a vehicle. I want to be the person that's remembered for changing education. And yes, there's a bit of ego in there as well about like, I want to be the person that does it. But it's not about me. It's about all those students that I've helped with this kind of method, and all the students that have failed by the system that could be helped and saved and built much better. And the great quote that I always share is that it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken adults.
Oh, absolutely.
If we can do that more, then like imagine the cost in the NHS and governments and companies who are trying to fund mental health support. We've got it all wrong. We're trying to do, solutions. It's not very proactive. We're trying to just fix solutions instead of looking at the actual like problem. And the problem starts with our flawed system.
Do you know what? I couldn't have put it better myself. Because there is a lot of, I call it sticky plasters. We're putting sticky plasters over lots and lots of different things without really understanding what's underneath the plaster, what's caused that to happen, that wound to close up, without really without having found out what caused the wound to happen in the first place. Yeah. So it's going to, at some point, it's like picking a scab. At some point, it's going to come back because we haven't dealt with it. And what you're doing is exactly that. It's starting to work at grassroots level, on the ground. From a corporate perspective, we call it the shop floor, the factory floor. That's where everything has to start. So if we can influence what's happening on the factory floor, we can get people to start thinking from a different perspective, then we can start influencing what's happening at the top. But until we change as individuals, until we start saying, enough's enough, this is not right. We want things to be better for our children. So as parents, we have to take that stand as well. And this is where I think your influence, because you've been in the teaching system, you've been in the school system, you've been to school, you've taught children, and now you're on the other side of the whole thing. So how are parents kind of like, if you've had conversation with parents, how are they receiving your message?
Well, parents are really, really supportive, and actually do lots of coaching for parents as well. Because you can have the best teacher, mentor, or coach in the world, but if mum and dad aren't on board, or they've got stuff that's holding them back, it's great to offer them a bit more training in coaching. So parents are super supportive, and I love doing the parent sessions, and that's why I run parent events, as well, because like I said, it's great to give them skills. Then we're building this holistic approach to supporting the young person. It's not just me. It's like everyone's involved and everyone's a stakeholder. Parents getting them on board, and teachers, things like that, are so vital for what we're doing.
I love it. I love the fact you're dealing with the whole family, not just the student, because the student can then get isolated when they get home, because they'll have these ideas, they want to change things, and the parents will be like, what are you talking about? Is this one of your new brain? You've had this random thought and now things are supposed to change. So the fact that you're saying, do you know what, parents, I need you to come on board is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So the more traction you can get on this, the better it's going to be, really.
Yeah, for sure.
The more people get behind it. So how can people get hold of you?
Yeah,
where do
great
they
question.
find you?
So I'm big on all social media, really, but Instagram, which is @StudentBreakthrough. Check out Facebook, which is Student Breakthrough. LinkedIn is Sam Moinet, which is that French name, Moinet. And then the website, studentbreakthrough.com, which we've got loads of testimonials, events. You can see what we're up to. And my email is sam@studentbreakthrough.com. So yeah, reach out, connect, like, share. And if you've got any questions, please do reach out, and I'll be more than willing to give you my time.
Yeah, I think you probably will get some questions hopefully you will get some questions off the back of this, and maybe even somebody who's watching this say, do you know what, I want to get involved. So, awesome. Hopefully they'll reach out to you. So Sam, before we wrap up, I know you mentioned earlier what you want to be remembered for, but if anybody missed it, can you sort of like let us know? So once you've popped off into the sky, into heaven, and you're looking down, and people are having a conversation about you, how do you want to be remembered?
Someone who transformed an old and outdated education system so that more students can succeed, develop resilient mental health, and gain new success. Like, I'd love for those students or the people who were there at school after I've gone to be like, well, yeah, it really changed because of the work that Sam Moinet did and Student Breakthrough, and they were instrumental in transforming things. So yeah, that's really it. And it starts with emotional support for me, because that's the foundation. If we can build that strong, then we can put in stuff like a curriculum and testing and grades and data and all the other stuff that comes with it. But I want to be remembered as someone who didn't stand for what was going on, wasn't just putting sticky plasters on it, but it was actually at the start laying great foundations for future success for young people.
Oh, that is amazing. I can see you doing that, definitely. There's nothing that's going to get in your way. You're a very, very determined young man. And like you said, you have your vision. You might have your doubts every now and again, but you've got your end vision in sight. So, I wish you all the luck in the world. I really, really do.
Thank you, Benji.
And I'll offer my services. If I can help in any way, then reach out to me. I'll do whatever I can to help out.
Much.
Okay, so thank you very much for joining the show. I really appreciate you taking the time, because I know how busy you are as well. So,
no, really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Like, it's been amazing to chat and some great questions. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. So thank you everybody for watching. And this week you've been inspired by Sam Moinet, Student Breakthrough. So please do keep watching, and remember to like, subscribe and share, and hit the bell icon so you can see what's coming up ahead of time. So I will see you next week on another Inspired By.